Support for Living Culture is provided in part by Easy Orchards Farm Market and by Fitz Seafoods. Steve, do you want to tell us what you have here?
Goodies.
Today we visit with Chef Steve Morton. Known for his eclectic cooking style and use of local ingredients, Steve's restaurant in West Salem has been a popular destination for fine dining since 1989. We joined Steve at Abundant Life Farm in Dallas, where Scott and Marilyn Jondle raise livestock on 200 acres of pasture. Steve has partnered with the Jondles to reduce waste at his restaurant and provide supplemental feed for the pigs on the farm.
I talked to Scott and Marilyn. I've always had some harebrained ideas, but I was just appalled at the amount of food waste we had, and not really from the kitchen, but from the consumer buying a plate of food and not finishing it. So we were noticing we were scraping plates, and so I thought, I got to get this thing back to the farm. I always joked I needed a pig out back because I could keep them fed. So I talked to Scott and Marilyn here at Abundant Life Farm, and we decided to try this pilot program, and Scott bought some 5-gallon soy sauce buckets, and we have about 10 of them that we rotate through, and we put one at the dish pit and one on the line, and you'll see that later this morning. And anything that I can't use in the kitchen, trim or anything that's not, and you can use a lot of that, but the stuff I can't use, or the stuff I think maybe is past sell date, bang, it goes into the pot. And so about once a week, Scott and Marilyn swing by. We have a cooler behind the restaurant. We put all what we call the hog fuel out there, and then they pick that up. And so today we've brought that with us, and it is comprised mainly of, just like I say, plate scraps and some trim. And there's an occasional French fry or shrimp skin or shell, and so it's really very varied. And I guess the hogs really like it.
Yeah,
they love it.
Eating it up?
They don't leave a scrap. I mean, you come the next day and it's gone. It's like it wasn't even there. It's amazing how well they clean it up.
Spinach, romaine.
That's what
Americans don't eat their vegetables. And so it's funny, you can get all creative as you want, but they'll start on the main ingredient, which is whatever, has the highest protein, and that's usually the steak or seafood, and move into the other stuff later. And as they fill up on bread and the other things, the accoutrement, they tend to neglect that. So I think predominantly what you see in there are like, it looks like some beet salad that got left over, and some greens that went around the corner. Do they like to lay down in this straw and sleep? Is this?
Yeah, and it gets muddy during the winter, so that's where I kind of put the straw down to help keep the mud under control.
Some of it, yeah.
But during the evening or at night, they sleep underneath that old canopy.
And they huddle together?
They huddle together like little sausages. It's kind of fun to see them.
Inside there?
Inside there, underneath there, yeah.
And there's enough body heat in there, I imagine, pretty toasty in there.
Yeah, as long as they stay dry,
they
can take real cold temperatures. They've
Right.
got all that fat on them. And
Right.
we found that the best weight is probably a little over 300 pounds, 325 up to 350. That way you have enough body fat on the hog so you have good quality pork.
Right.
If you try to butcher a hog too lean, you're not going to have the quality of meat that you really are looking for. It's not going to be juicy. It's not going to have the flavor. So we like to get a little bit of body fat on them for just the meat quality.
And how old did you say they were at that point?
We butcher them about 6 months,
Okay.
5.5 to 6 months, and these are about 2.5 months old. So probably around the end of March, beginning of April, they'll be ready to be butchered.
Yeah.
Do you have a breeding pair, or do you buy the wieners when
We buy them as wieners when they're about 6 weeks old, 6-7 weeks old. They weigh about 50, sometimes up to 60 pounds.
Wow.
We've thought about getting our own breeding pair, and that's something we're still looking into. It's a matter of finding the right breed.
Right.
The breed we're looking for are pretty rare, and they're not readily available. And a lot of people will go back to the Midwest actually to buy them. And,
Yeah.
that's a long ways to go to bring an animal back.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're looking into that because it's becoming harder and harder to find good
Right.
quality winter pigs.
You couldn't just take a male and female here and breed them eventually and set them aside? Would it be genetically a problem?
It genetically could be a problem, and these are crosses. They're Berkshire, usually crossed with Chester White, and when you breed them, you want to have purebred, and
Yeah.
it just gives you a better. But when you breed two purebreds, you'll usually cross them, and those crossbred give you what's called hybrid vigor, which grow about 20% faster than if you kept them purebred.
Interesting.
So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah. What were your yield like? If on the hoof weight is 350. When you're done, slaughtering and processing that animal, how much of that pig are you actually becomes table fare? I mean, in weight, 50%.
Let's see, when you go from live weight to hanging weight, carcass weight, you lose about 20 some percent, 22%, I believe. And then when you cut and wrap and debone, you lose about another 20%. So your yield is probably about 60%, somewhere in there.
Once the pigs had been fed, we reserved some leftovers for the hens in the greenhouse.
And the chickens are all eating the scraps, the leftover scraps that Steve brought. They like it.
It drops almost zero.
The reason that the geese are inside with the chickens is they are guard animals, and so if Scott puts the geese with the chickens, it's a lot less likely that the coyotes will come and try to take one, because the geese are sort of aggressive and intimidating. And so he'll do the same thing with with the sheep or the lamb.
We've been keeping one or two large animals, like our cows, with the sheep, and just the size of the animal deters the coyotes.
Really?
And so we've never lost another sheep with cows being with them.
Right.
And with the animals secure and fed for the day, Scott sets aside 2 packages of pork loin.
Well, I'm going to give them a couple packages of pork chops. One is a smaller, more of a center cut pork chop, and the other is what they call the loin end pork chop, which is a larger chop. And both very good chops. And I know Steve can do magic with them, and I know he can work wonders with good meat.